And let me switch over, hit the rock fin to make sure that that clicks also. Rock fin goes a couple of seconds behind for some reason. So just bear with me as I do that. I have to click this and go back. Yeah, let's go back and try it one more time. Come on. Come on, rock fan, behave tonight. Let's see. And yeah, so just waiting on the rock fan. Let me see.
No worries.
Anybody? There we go. Go live. Cool. So it just gave me the green light to go live. And first up, we'll start off with hello, everybody. This is Thinking with Young Morpheus. Of course, I'm Young Morpheus. We do have a show later on tonight, directly after this one, so make sure to catch this. And for those who are tuning in with us, I have a very special guest, very special show. Tonight we have on Octo5quid, which I met Octo5quid out at the what was it, the war machine, yeah, fight the war machine protest. I'm getting a little mixed up, LA. And he was out there on the ground, he was covering that, and we got talking. And come to find out, he was about to leave to go to East Palestine and do some on the ground work. I looked up some of his content, and he's been out to Japan. He's done some interviews out there. He's done some more lighthearted, fun stuff. But when this situation came up, he decided he wanted to get more active and involved. And I'm more than happy that that's what he decided to do, and happy that he was able to come join us. So welcome to Thinking with Young Morpheus, Octo5quid. And how are you, brother?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, here you
Okay.
good. A little crackle, but you're good.
First thing, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to speak on my adventures out there. I haven't spoken to anyone yet at all about it in person, through text, DMs, da da da. But this is the first time I've ever spoken publicly about it. So thank you for that. How am I doing? It's been a rough couple of months. I'm not gonna lie. And there's been family issues and relationship problems and family emergencies and tragedies. And I felt like when this happened, when I learned about it, it all just clicked, and I had to go. I had to go out there, and I took the weight of the world on my shoulders. And I won't lie, man, I had a moment of psychosis. I had a mental break. It was the it was so hard to be there. And when I think about it, when I'm editing videos, when I look over it, I I break down sometimes and cry, man. So thank you,
Mhm.
truthfully, thank you for allowing me to speak on how it was. Thank you.
Well, definitely. I mean, you're definitely welcome, and off camera, definitely reach out to me and talk if you want to talk about some of this stuff, because I've definitely been on the ground at some of these different types of events, been in the middle of some of this types of stuff, and decided to kind of do what I'm doing now and help in the way that I'm helping now. And I feel one of those key things is information and keeping people involved. Um, for those who don't know exactly what we're talking about tonight, or you're just tuning in at this very moment, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about East Palestine, and of course the train derailment that happened out there, and the effects that it's had on the people of East Palestine. And Octo5quid here was on the ground there, and has been talking to the people face to face, and getting their true stories, and what's been going on. So what was your assessment of things when you first got there versus what you saw on TV and the news and what you were seeing there live in the flesh?
Okay, good question. So I do want to start this with saying that I was reading about it. I heard about the derailment. Didn't really think anything of it. Then I heard of the controlled burn, and
Hmm.
it took like a week. It took like a week for like around Valentine's Day is when it really clicked. Like, oh Lord, this is really bad, and no one's talking about it, and there's no media coverage. So when I went out there, it was like a small normal town. I'm from the Midwest. I grew up out there, so it felt like a normal Midwestern type town. But there was still this ominous, this presence of like this. There was an aura there that something was wrong, and all that aside, the resiliency. of these people in East Palestine is so moving and so touching that they're able to want the best and still going on through their day and keep it's just so it's moving. With that said, uh, it's when I went there, it was about a month ago. When I went
Mhm.
there, information was just starting to trickle out. So the information that I'm going to share with you, what I learned there, is actually
Mhm.
a little older than what's been happening. Like even by the end of this conversation, there's going to be something
Yes.
else, right?
Yes, of course.
So what I want to share with you guys, with everyone out, my mom, my dad, my brothers, my sisters, everyone, what I want to share is that it there, whether on purpose or on accident, the derailments in East Palestine, Ohio, is truthfully one of the worst disasters to happen in this country. Truthfully, and I can tell you that. I can tell you that with certainty after talking to Dr. Welton from the University of Purdue, from talking to Stephen Kelly Davis from Hilltop Honey Farms, talking to all the different individual people that I've met. I can truthfully tell you that this is probably the worst event to happen in American history. And I'm saying that, and I'm usually not like a doomer black pill type guy. I'm usually not that type of person to be like, oh, everything's screwed. We gotta, but yeah, I have emergency food for myself. I have emergency supplies, but this is so beyond that scope. I know I'm getting ahead of myself here. What I'm just trying to say is this is a third of the nation's water. This isn't just, some
Mm.
bum town in Ohio where, yeah, they're Trumpanzees and, they're deplorables and, they never went to college and, they're like, okay, maybe not the most friendly to other folks or people who have different skin color. Okay, maybe you can have that interpretation and feel it's kind of justified that this happened there. And I've encountered that. I've encountered on social media and IRL that those people deserve it for the way that they voted or the way that they feel, the way
Yeah,
that they look. So I just
I've
want
seen that. I've seen it.
and so I just want to say that if that's how you feel, if that's truthfully how you feel, one, you're a terrible person. Two, it
Mhm.
extends to a third of the nation. And that's what I've the sum of what I've learned. And these chemicals, man, like they just it's basically Agent Orange. It's basic. That's what's in the water. That's what's going to be in the food. That's what bees are going to be pollinating with. It's basically Agent Orange. There's no that this all the sciencey stuff. Like I'm not very smart like that. My undergrad is in music business and broadcasting. Okay, so like I can't really dissect it that much. It hurts my head, but more or less it's like it's poison. It's poison and it's Ohio River, that's Kentucky, that's West Virginia, that's Missouri, that's Indiana, all the way to the Mississippi River, all the way down. And yeah, just it's sad. It's awful. It's terrible. And the solutions there are solutions, but that is my accumulated assessment of being there for a little less than a week.
Hmm. So definitely you could see that. And I don't even think that I really thought about the fact of, how pervasive that it is once it starts affecting the Ohio River. And just like, for instance, the pollinization, which goes on also, that it's literally going to be carrying those toxins and spreading them to other parts. And just the fact of like thinking about like rain cycles and stuff, how rain comes down, it evaporates, and it's bringing that stuff up into the clouds and bringing it back down, and what that does to the people, the land, and stuff over long-term effects.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to catch rainwater in Kentucky. So during this, like at the end of it, at the tail end of it, I caught rainwater in Kentucky. So I'm looking now, I'm kind of shopping around to see who can help me test the water. And if that water if Kentucky rain shows that these chemicals are in there, then it's it's way worse than what we ever could have thought or ever could have known. Um, but I just felt this need to go there and talk about it. And basically my journey, my 5-6 day journey, just like I learned so much about myself. I actually grew as a person. And if you believe it, a lot of funny stuff fell into my lap. Like we crashed an EPA presser. The head of the EPA, Mr. Reagan, walked in on us. We were enjoying coffee, me and my cameraman. Shout out Jared, and we were sitting down enjoying coffee, and he walks into the coffee shop that we're at. And then I'm like, dude, go get your camera. He's like, why? That's the head of the EPA. And so we pull out our camera, start taking photos, start taking videos. And this chinlit soy boy checks us. Is like, hey, what are you guys doing? Who are you shooting for? And the entire time I'm thinking like, bro, you walked into us. Like we were not waiting for you here at all. We didn't know you were coming. So one of the sorry to go back to the story. We were going downtown, taking photos, getting ready for interviews, and we noticed that the main block was shut off. And there was FEMA, CDC, EPA trucks, and there was some tripods set up. And so I told the cameraman, my fellow cameraman, hey, let's go. Let's go in there. No one was there. No one was sitting around watching guard. This is a small town, so there's no one in East Palestine is, they're angry and upset, but they're also reasonable and not violence. If this happened somewhere else, who knows what might have happened. But basically, we walked into this presser, set up our camera stands, went away, came back 3-4 hours later, walked in with our cameras, and we were able to be part of the presser. No media pass, no coverage, like no one checked us. We just looked like we knew what we were doing, and it was an incredible thing. And had I gone there any other time, that would not have happened. So the fact that I was there at the right time, right place, right uniform, basically, I look like I belong. The footage we got and what we heard, what we saw is just no one else could have done it, and I'm so blessed to have that opportunity.
Oh, I'm glad that you had that opportunity also, and the fact that you were able to be able to go through these different experiences. And I was wondering, like, what are some of the things that you will say that you, for one, learned about yourself in seeing this? Because you said that you did go through some different, some growing pains and tribulations and different things like that, just going through this. And also, I think a lot of people are not typically accustomed to seeing the effects of something like this on people and how it weighs on the community. I'm just wondering, like, how did some of that stuff like affect you?
Okay, so we had a meeting with a chaplain, unrelated to all this, like not too long after, maybe a week after, and he was talking about resiliency. I mentioned that word earlier. Sometimes you choose the resiliency, like you choose the challenge that you overtake. The example he gave was like a really crazy hike at Kilimanjaro, or all like life challenges. And sometimes resiliency chooses you. And so when I thought about that, I thought to myself, the people in that town, East Palestine, resiliency chose them. What happened? It chose them. And my resiliency was going there to do it, to help them. Yes, I unloaded water. Yes, I made people feel good, but like I'm kind of powerless. Like I can't afford 10, 20,000 water filters for these people. I hope someone does that. I really hope someone does that. But the only way that I knew how to help, the only way that I could have helped them was me going there and me talking to them, letting them know that people care, even weirdos like me, but that there's people want to hear their stories, and that fact that someone's willing to go out there on their own dime and time to hear them out, to hear what they have to say. And so what I learned about myself is I need to learn to control my emotions. I need to learn how to control my emotions better, especially as a man, especially as like someone who tries to be, like a strong man. If you can't control your emotions, then unfortunately, how can anyone expect you to control anything? One example, the hardest example I heard was Greg that I met out there. He's in my documentary. If you haven't watched it, please do. It's very good. All the music too is by me, if you'd believe that. And so I want to tell my interpretation of this man's story. Lived in this town, 61 years old, He takes care of his 6 granddaughters. His children live in the town. He's, you know, strong patriarch. He's looking out for them. He's taking care of them, and everything is just like he won. You know, like he won. He won like the patriarchal lottery to be a strong grandfather and caring and loving and be able to mentor them and, you know, teach them and help them grow. And unfortunately, because of what happened, they have to. The family has to split. Like they don't want to stay in that town and get sick, get exposed to God knows what. So it's you know, we talk a little bit even after that, and it's just like what, like it's almost like he was punished for doing the right thing and winning. That's one interpretation of it, and that's how I'm viewing this. But I want to say learning about growing is learning how to control your emotions and withstand resiliency, and that words have power and meaning, and that
Mhm.
you should not say or write anything that you don't mean.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I want to throw a shout out to the people that I see that we have in the chat on the. I see Opus Cosmic. I see Sharky Ihara. I hope I've said that correctly.
Oh, Sharky.
Atris, my man. And over on the Rockfin side, Pacheco Rome. Thank you, sir, for your gracious tip. And if you all have any questions, to everybody who I've shouted out, and to anybody who's just watching, who's just kind of sitting back and just kind of taking it all in, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Octo5quid, please put them in the chat. I can throw those questions in there and then see if we can field some of these questions for you. I was wondering, with everything that was going on, with it being a situation between a private company, being Norfolk Southern, and local municipality being East Palestine, and then dealing with also, you know, the state itself, and then of course federal entities. How are the people responding? Do they feel that things are getting handled, will get handled, and that, you know, this situation will be okay? Or is it looking at it as more of a I don't know, maybe we might need to, you know, seek refuge somewhere else, possibly move to a different city? What's going on? Do they feel like that the problem is getting addressed, for one, and for two, the I guess two part to this question, long term, you know, how this is all going to play out?
Okay, so I can basically tell you off the jump that the immediate response, no one is satisfied with. No one. There's the response from Norfolk Southern, the response from federal agencies, and anyone with half a brain and quarter of a soul understands that there's a certain level where private companies and government entities overlap. That's
Mhm.
obvious. If you don't,
Yeah.
there's no debate anymore. There's no room for discussion. If you don't know that, you need to, now you know. All right.
Hmm.
So, like Norfolk Southern has their own police force.
Yeah.
Norfolk Norfolk Southern has, like, you know, it's all private corporations are almost in a sense their own government, and so we'll say is the immediate response not acceptable at all. Period. The end. There's nothing. It's just awful. And then the immediate response from government authorities too, just not acceptable, just unacceptable. And so what the people were dealing with, or what I took from it, was they were um, they're tired and like, why are you not being honest? You know, at first they said it was only like maybe like 6 chemicals. I forget what Dr. Walton told me, but it was single digit chemicals on the train. And then it turned out there was 16. And then it turns out when the fire happened, it created thousands of different chemicals.
Hmm.
Because so one chemical lights on fire, and then it reacts with another chemical, and then it reacts with that chemical's fire, and then those chemicals react, and then one chemical reacts with the original one. It's like a inverse basketball bracket. Instead of 4, 2, 1, it's 1, 2, 4, 8. It's just exponential. So
Mm-hmm.
they weren't honest about that. And some of these chemicals only appear like that. They're in and
Mm-hmm.
out, and then that's it. Other chemicals, maybe they're 6 hours, maybe they're 12, maybe they're 12 days, 12 months, 12 years. They're not. They weren't testing them. They weren't. They were only doing their standard tests that they would do everywhere. Which, okay, it's all right. You can do that. But then you're not going to test for everything else. What type of sense does that make? None. That's what it does. And so, right now, what I've been seeing and what I've been reading, uh, results are coming out. Okay, they are. And of course it's the results that everyone thought they would be. That it's the situation's screwed. It's bad. It's awful. It's worse than that they could admit. They were. If you want to call it a cover up, you're welcome to do that. Again, is it on purpose or incompetency? Which is better? Which is worse?
Mm-hmm.
But so the other thing, and this ties back into social media comments. A lot of people are just saying, just move. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard a lot of that.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. Who's paying? Because by their own accounts, by their own admission, it's very, very underprivileged community. They're not rich. They're not wealthy. It's like to call it middle class is still exaggerating. And I'm saying this as one, being there, two, talking to them, talking to these people, and three, like actually understanding their terms. Okay, so your question, the long term, what would or should happen, could happen. The best case scenario is for the people who've been affected, which is basically everyone in a certain mile radius, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. I don't know, but there's got to be like a certain amount, a certain radius of people who are directly affected that need to leave. Okay, but what does that mean? That means, in my mind, in like a reasonable mind, a year's worth of wages, their house bought, movement paid, and wherever house they move into paid for. And that's the minimum. That is the minimum required to make this even. It's never going to be okay. You just ruin people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
They Greg, okay, he was set up to raise his kids there, raise his family there, and now you totaled it. You destroyed it. Okay, people's businesses with Hilltop Honey Farms. This goes. I haven't released this yet. The second part is due out Monday, but they like not even 2 or 3 years ago, they just bought new equipment, all new equipment. Okay, they spent. They didn't tell me, but they spent lots of money that they put off holidays and vacations and car. They saved for this, and now that equipment's ruined. So what is it? Someone like that supposed to do? Like what are they supposed to do? And no one cares. No one, like, I mean, obviously you and I care and the audience
Yeah.
cares, but the people who have the ability and power and influence, who are responsible, but also the ability to fix it or help them, they just don't, and it's sickening. So the best case scenario to your question is everyone should be monetarily compensated, as well
Yeah.
as the president of Norfolk Southern should probably be like tarred and feathered. I mean, that sounds reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it like when people just say, well, they need to just up and move. I mean, that is, if that was just an easy option, okay, cool. But it's not just simple to just up and move. I mean, you do have to have, you have to have some kind of a means to, okay, what are you going to do with this house that you have? Because you're not going to be able to sell the house necessarily to anybody. And if you did sell it to, if you are able to offload that house, or are you going to be able to reap how much you possibly own the house, be able to get back the value or equity that was in the house? The same thing with your business, and to be able to transfer that into buying a new house and relocating. And I could tell you, as somebody who's relocated a lot in my life, it's not always easy, and especially if you're talking about from a smaller town, because more than likely your wages are at a lower level, and you're more than likely going to have to move to a larger city where the cost of living is higher. And so, I mean, I just think that people don't think about all of those things when they just say everybody needs to just up and move. And then, like how you brought up, people within a certain area probably need to move. But what happens to that city as a whole? Once that group of people leaves, then things like property taxes, mill levy taxes, all those things go up on the rest of the people. Your business also decreases because you have less customer base. And so therefore you have higher taxes and less income. And it goes to basically, I'm a Midwesterner also. The county that I grew up in, because of high crime, we watched a lot of our people leave and go to the surrounding counties, which you watched a county started slowly dying. Now, it got revived in a sense from other things because, of course, we didn't have a catastrophe. But in this situation, what does a person like this do? I was wondering, do you think that, I mean, even if they're well, we already know how these corporations work, and we know how entwined they are with the government. Do you feel that they are going to at least be able to get some kind of a parachute or an exit way out of this situation that will give these people some kind of compensation or just a way so they can keep going on? Because if not, you're going to basically create a whole town full of people who are going to have massive health problems and or be pushed into another city and possibly on the verge of, poverty or homelessness.
Okay, so I hope for Norfolk Southern's sake that they do. You know, these corporations, these entities, they don't really understand if you're willing to take away everything from a person and they have nothing to lose, you're what do you think is going to happen? Just morally, like, and it's one thing if it's like, like a speaking biblically, forgive me, who was God messing with? Like Jacob?
Job.
Job, yeah, like okay, that's one that's like, let's say it's out of your control that these things are happening. Okay? That's one thing. But when a company is responsible for it, it is your responsibility for your own neck, for your own sake to do it. Now, what does that mean? We talked about it, buying out homes, and there's people who think this all plays into a larger agenda where you're forcing these people to live in cities now, and all the land is bought up by government entities, and what do they say? Was that Agenda 2030 or something
Well,
like that?
do you buy into any of those different Agenda 2030, possibly pushing people into the larger cities, the 15-minute cities, and things like that? I've heard a bunch of different things. So it all depends on, like, I heard one that it has something to do with a plant that they are building near the area, and I've just heard a lot of stuff. So I'm just curious, like, what's some of your thoughts and some of the things that you've heard? What's probable? What's not really? What's just kind of just theories that people are throwing out there?
Okay, so there's a lot out there, and I will 100% admit and tell you that I use 4chan a lot for news. And there was a point where I would hide it and be like, I don't know what that is. Da, 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 da. Now and there's a point where I have to be honest about myself and to the world. And I tell you, I've gotten better information from. That's how I learned about this, was from that, and how bad it was. So people are gonna say whatever they want, like how bad that website is, and da 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 da. And there are parts that are really awful and gross and disgusting. But without that access to knowledge, these people's stories would not have been told. And so, to your question of to what end do I believe? I always ask people, is it on purpose? Is it on accident? Which is better? Which is worse? And I think right now, I have to bite my tongue exactly on how much I feel, because it's actually the third part of my documentary is me exploring that. Okay. But I just before I get into like the globalist or George Soros and that, before I get into anything like that, What I care about is making sure that these people are taken care of. And that's not me avoiding your question, because I'm going to touch on something.
No. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, because there is a lot. There is something I do want to say about this, but to say it's like some part of some globalist Green New Deal thing. I'm gonna bite my tongue. I need to look into it a little bit more. Bring the facts. All right. And was it deliberate? Again, I'm gonna just let me look into it before I say something I'm gonna regret. But there's two things I do want to say. The first thing, we don't know in truth if the control burn was necessary. We don't know that. I don't know that. I don't. And I'm someone who's very skeptical of scientists and science. I'm very, very skeptical of them. And this isn't a political thing. It's just, I've had some family history with doctors and nurses and how they mistreated family members, okay? And how they prescribe people, my family, basically a death sentence through medication. And then we can talk all day about like antidepressants and Prozone and that all. Okay. So first thing, and skepticism and healthy skepticism does not make you a bad person or stupid or evil or ignorant or malicious. Skepticism is your responsibility as a person to hold people who have knowledge above you. And I'm a little bit of a tangent, but let me speak on this for a second, all right? I had a music theory teacher who would lie to us in class. He lied to us every day about music theory because he said, "You're my competition. Why would I tell you the truth?" Okay.
Wow.
And I mean, eventually there was like some things, he would do it, but then like tell us what the real answer is based on, whatever theory we were learning. But he told me that. And ever since then, I've never forgotten that. The second thing is, because these are Trumpanzees, and that's, use your term, use your imagination what I'm saying there, like maybe when I say that, you picture someone storming the Capitol. That's I'm not saying it's related. What I'm saying is these are white conservatives who, they like Trump and, they're in their ways. These people, they're not well liked by media and establishment.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how else to put it. And they're just like shoot aside. And that's how they were feeling when they were dealing with government agencies. That's how they felt. They felt pushed aside. And just for the record, everyone listening, me saying that last part does not at all negate, diffuse, or lessen what other groups in this country have dealt with. I want to make that clear. What I said before is absence of any other tragedy, racial injustice. I'm talking about this specific thing right here, right now. It is overlooked because of the way those people are in that country, and that's the answer to your conspiracy question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I definitely, and we'll talk more. We'll talk more on it off camera, definitely, and especially like after you finish the next part. I noticed something, and I guess I'll just give for the audience, for those who are familiar with me, a little bit of background. My family, a lot of them worked for Burlington Northern Santa Fe. And so I have a little bit of knowledge with trains and some of the stuff going on. I also have a little bit of experience with some of the kind of, we could say, some chemical warfare from my military time. Because I worked with weapons. So I was Navy, so I was a torpedo man, worked at weapon stations and worked a little bit with EOD. Okay. And sometimes you're dealing with chemicals, and some of the chemicals that, how they can drip into the soil and the effects on the soil and things like that, and how far they go with things like that, and asbestos and everything. It's, I think it's understated how, whether it's intentional or unintentional, the effect it can have on the water. And affect so many other people, even, inadvertently. Do I think that the train was necessarily intentionally derailed? No, not necessarily. I mean, I've said it on my other show, by negligence, definitely, because you've had easily a good 50 years of just not very good legislation as far as dealing with this from both sides of the aisle, which have led to where we are now. That said, it does bring up a good question which you raised, which I haven't heard anybody else even bring up that question. Did the control burn even have to happen?
Okay, so I'm just sifting through my YouTube comments, and that's obviously the best place to be in the entire world. But at least maybe an eighth, a quarter of them are saying that the control burn did not need to happen. Okay, I'm willing to hear this train of thought. Train of thought. The main thing that I've understood, even before that, was they did this control burn so the trains can keep running. That's my what my stance is before even going there. That was my stance. Okay, my stance was they did the control burn because Norfolk Southern, the company, wanted to move the trains forward. Other comments are saying different things that had to get approval from, the city, the National Guard, the EPA, the CDC. I've even heard the DOD. So I don't really know what the point of it was. Was it really the best option? I've been hearing there's refrigeration on the tankers to stop them from burning. Yeah, I need to. This is helping me understand what the next part of this project is going to go. But I do want to say something, and I think I'm hoping that the audience can agree to this. One of the first things I ever said when we started was this is probably the worst ecological disaster to happen in the country. Okay. Well, where are all the major protests about it? Where's the Greta Thunbergs, the AOCs, the Green Party, the Jill Steins? Where are these people? They're absent. They're not there. And I don't know if it's because they don't know about it. Well, then shame on them because they know everything else. Is it because it's the area that it took place? We talked about earlier, like that demographic. Okay. Well, then that's awful because it's not just that area; it's everywhere. And I don't know. I'm so, I'm really, I wouldn't say I'm apolitical, but I'm like, I'm outside of, you and I probably, even before we started, we had a lot of good conversations, but the left-right paradigm is, fake, obviously. But, another tangent, my political compass test said I was a monarchist. So I'm still trying to figure out what that means.
Yeah, we definitely got to talk. There's a lot that, I share on different other channels going into. But and Jamin here says I really appreciate honest people who say they don't know. And it's interesting I asked you that because I've thought about it in two different ways. And maybe I'll go into some of my thinking and I'll lay it out, because like I said, having some experience with a family who was in trains and things like that. I mean, grandfather grew up going down to the railroad with him. And I have a bunch of cousins who worked for, one of them just retired. If you do the controlled burn, what happens is you are able to get the trains back up and running much faster. But the downsides of that is now you have the possibility, like you were talking about the inverted bracket, how you start off with a couple of chemicals, and now because of heat, that can sit there and fuse molecules in different ways and create new chemicals. Just like how you can see how think about science projects you probably did as a kid, and you mix this together and that together, both two things which are room temperature, and it starts either getting super cold or getting super hot. The same thing you would see with say bonding agents, where you have two chemicals which you keep separate, and then once you use them together, now it fuses together something much stronger. All of those things have to be factored in, especially when you start burning. The downsides of doing the burn is, like you said, all of those different chemicals and having an unpredictable capability of what happens when all of these different chemicals mix. Because once they start mixing, and here's another thing which a lot of people aren't factoring in. There's already chemicals which are on your grounds, pesticides, um, fertilizers, all kind of other stuff, insecticides, and all those which have chemicals also. And when those chemicals all fuse together with those different temperatures, there's no way you have a controlled scientific environment to be able to figure out how these things are going to react short or long term. The other side of it is, if you don't and you do a controlled cleanup, it takes longer to get the trains up by far. But there's a possibility that you can assess the situation better and be able to use countering agents to possibly cut those chemicals and make them not as toxic, or make them easier to clean up, whether that's dealing with like trenching, which, for instance, in the Navy, for instance, certain things we use, like for instance, torpedoes and certain mines actually have different fuels in them. If they fall, those fuels can come out and create a spill. And in the case of the ones like, for instance, in Mach 46 torpedoes, you literally have to dig down like 6 feet of that earth so that you can get the chemicals out from the soil, from corrupting the soil and eventually contaminating the topsoil and anything that you would grow in that area. There's the possibility also that because of the sheer amount, because of how much is down there on the ground, it might take longer to get those chemicals out. And then it also depends on the type of soil that you have. If it's more topsoil, if it's more acidic, sandy, clay, all of those things work differently as to whether those chemicals sit and puddle on the top surface of the ground, or if they start to absorb faster. And so it's really, that's what I'm saying. I haven't done enough research either way to know. That's why I asked the question.
Okay, so I just want to, I haven't done the research, you haven't done the research, and neither did Norfolk Southern, because there's way too many goddamn there's way too many goddamn factors to play into it. Like you just talked about like just a few things. Imagine if there was like 16 of them, okay, and then more because of the fire and everything. So, and I can't even, like, my brain, I can't, I'm not the smartest, I won't lie, I'm not the quickest with that. I'm quick in other ways, I'm smart in other ways, just that I would not even know where to begin to like understand it. I just know, bottom line, my ape man mentality is that does not belong near there.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they decided to move all of the chemicals that was remaining to the banks of the Ohio River. So now it's not just like, oh, the chemicals in the air and the rain pours down and because that might dilute it to some extent. They just moved all that stuff from the derailment burn site to the shore of the river for the rest of the freaking country. So, and where's the testing done? How do we know that's safe to do? Oh my God, it's so overwhelming.
Yeah, where's the testing done? Who is doing the testing?
Oh, luckily Norfolk Southern, right? But or people, I'm just, and again, evil or incompetency. Which is it? What's going on here? Yeah, man. You said earlier at the beginning, I started my video channel just for fun. Okay, like I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to. I just didn't think I'd ever be involved in something like this. And then when the opportunity came, I knew I had to take it. Like I have a video about of me in Japan coming out in like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, I don't even. It's crazy that this happened at all, and everything just lined up. Like the stars aligned in a certain way for this to have happened. Yeah, brother, man. I'm just. It gets me like kind of aggro about it because You know, I talked to people in Ohio that didn't even know this happened. You know,
Wow.
yeah, there's people in that same state, in that same time zone, bro, in that same time zone that don't even know that it happened. And you know, is it their fault? I don't know, maybe, but it's more so the fact that lack of coverage of media and also a suppression of coverage to begin with is what
Yeah.
made it that way. Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, I was one of those people that I saw it instantly. Like the news reported on it, but they reported on it and then dipped back out from it. And so it was like just a passing story. It's like, oh, okay, we're talking about the political blah 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 blah. Oh yeah, breaking news. There was a train derailment. Blah blah blah. And then they just kind of like, all right, now back to the politics. So you think Mitt Romney? And it was like, whoa, you guys like talked about that for 2 seconds. And I watched all of them do it. And if you're not somebody who watches mainstream media on a regular, it's very easy to have missed it. And then what happened is you started seeing more people in independent media or alternative media or whatever you want to say, whether it was through 4chan, through TikTok, through Rumble, through Rockfin, through Truth Social, through all these different, because a lot of these people sometimes have a different lean. Sorry, my straw. A lot of these people have a different lean where, okay, I care about it now because Biden, who's a Democrat's in office, so now I'm going to care more about it because I'm going to hyper focus on what the Democrats do bad. Whereas me, I could care less who was in power. I don't care if it's, I really could care less who. I mean, Martin Luther King could have been in office and this happened, and I would have a problem with it. But just the fact of that was what generated most people to pay attention. And I feel like because it got so much heat that the mainstream eventually had to go back and, all right, okay, let's cover it now. Because,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. I do
Sure.
want to say that that's an unfortunate reality of politics. It's an unfortunate
Mhm.
reality of the world we live in, where people only care if if it leans to their ideals or it's against their ideals, and
Mhm.
that's very very unfortunate. And you know, people like to, oh, it was Biden, it was Pete Buttigieg, it was Trump, it was Obama. You know, they just keep kicking it, like keep shifting responsibility down the road. But what about the fact that aren't these the same trains from the Civil War? Like, do we not update our infrastructure enough? Like, okay, forget that for a second. All right, I am telling the world, I am telling you, I am telling everyone that this came, like this project that I'm working on, me going there, me being there, this came from a genuine point of care, and I really mean that. I'm not trying to um, I'm not trying to appeal to anyone. Because I really don't care if anyone ever. I don't care if anyone believes me or not. There was someone that I really cared for who we don't talk anymore, but she that was her water, and it was around Valentine's Day that it clicked because I was thinking of her. But then also, it dawned on me. Holy cow, that's her water. That's and then and then I thought to myself, I stepped out of myself for a moment, and I said, wow, like I care about it because I care for this person. What if I had a wife or kids or aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, grandparents there, or grandchildren? And then, you know, at that point, when that hit, like I did not care if someone was a Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative. I did not care. I only wanted this person to be safe. And then
Mhm.
eventually it turned into, I want this community to be safe. And then I want all this stuff like, oh, she's sick. Oh, the town's sick. Oh, the country's sick. And
Mhm.
that's where this all really originated from. And I can't believe it happened. Like and I'm still so shocked, and I I I don't know the remedy. I don't know, you know, that's above my pay grade. Number one. Number two, what I would come up with wouldn't even amend anything. It would just put a band-aid to a bullet wound. But
Yeah.
I will say though that the people of East Palestine are ridiculously powerful and strong, and thank thank you to them, to everyone I met who opened their homes, opened their hearts and their story to tell me. Like I truthfully mean it. It was very very moving, and the person that I am becoming because of that trip, I can't. I'm at a loss of words to describe.
I mean, I understand. And let's see. Joe says this whole situation screams of malfeasance. Don't let this story be covered up. Exactly. And shout out to Baba. I see you out there. Yeah, this is, and that's the reason why I was like, I don't care if I got you right on right away or if we had to push you back a little bit. I knew that we needed to have this conversation because it needs to be kept in people's memory. What's going on? When we had the BP oil spill, that that stayed nonstop at the top of the news, continuously. And there were other stories that were going on. I know some people use the excuse, oh well, but you got Russia, Ukraine, you had the stuff that's going with China, you had balloons in the air, you got Trump possibly going to jail, all these different things that are coming up, and they think that makes it different than what was going on back then. You had drone strikes going on all over the place. You had so-called terrorist leaders being killed every 5 minutes. You still had some of these political maneuverings. You had earthquakes and whatever, which were happening in other countries, killing hundreds. You had a lot of stuff going on at the same time when that was going on. But they keyed in on the BP oil spill, whereas this, which is right up there, if not worse. Well, I would say possibly worse because of the fact of it's literally in a town and it's harming actual real people. Whereas the BP oil spill was out in the middle of the Gulf and it's kind of not directly affecting a bunch of people, except for now. Forgive me, but don't want to leave out the people who were directly killed during that, because I think it was like 8 or 9 people who were killed who were on the mount. But what I noticed in all of these things is if something simple was done at the time, it could have completely averted a lot of these things. A lot of people don't know that BP oil spill, it was only like a $500,000 baffle. That if they would have put that baffle on, it would have prevented that spill. This right here, if they would have put on the high-speed brakes or, decided, okay, how about let's like slow it down while we're going through a town where, there's areas where it curves and goes up and down a little bit. How about let's, be a little bit safer while we're transporting these things, then maybe it's less likely that we would have this incident. Or if it's even an incident. Well, I'll say incident because we don't know if it was an accident. So, I mean, what's some of your thoughts on that?
Okay, so, the BP oil spill, I will admit, I was a child when that happened, but I do remember the South Park episode about it where Cthulhu came out of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I love that series. I do want to say also that I went to Kentucky and I saw when I was in Kentucky and I saw the Ohio River right next to the train tracks. And I just thought to myself, what happened in East Palestine could happen literally anywhere. Literally anywhere. And I saw in Kentucky, in Kentucky, I saw a Norfolk Southern train driving by. And the entire time I thought, holy cow, this could happen literally anywhere in the country, almost any time.
Mm-hmm.
Cue the conspiracy comments about all the different train derailments happening at the same time all over the country.
Yeah, because there was a lot of those.
There was, that's something, and that, hey, how many times does something like that have to happen before it's not a coincidence? And
yeah,
I will be exploring that. Just don't want to, get canceled or
Well,
court-martialed or
and some of my audience here, I want you guys to make sure Octo5quid that you guys keep up with him. We will make sure to plug all the different ways they connect to you. But please DM him, send him some stories and stuff like that, just like you guys send me info. And I know that he will take the time to look into it.
Yes, honestly, I will. I have pretty active on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. But I have a personal Facebook if you want to find me that way. I released my second album on Spotify. It's called Love Letters. I used one of the tracks in the movie in the documentary, uh, and I'm going to use another track in the second part. Um, it's like lo-fi hip hop. It's a whole bunch of stuff. You might like it, you might not. Give it a listen. Um, Other videos, other projects coming out. I want to invite you, my awesome host. I want to invite you to go to the Renaissance Festival with us in a couple of weeks. I think we'll have
Sure.
a good time.
Yeah, sure. Just let me know. You have my number. You definitely hit me up, and we can set something up. I know we're not that far away from each other, and one of these times we're gonna. I wouldn't mind having an interview where we meet up and do one of these in person. That'd be cool.
Run it, run it, run it, run it. But thank you for being an amazing host. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on all this, to give my insight, my interpretation, my translation almost of, if you
Hmm.
want to, Um, and I'll say this real quick. My last shoot before that, my last big shoot was in Tokyo. I did two takes in Tokyo. One was a man on the street, or squid on the street, I call it, and then a music video for one of my songs. So, that took a lot of planning, that took a lot of effort, and I felt like I peaked with that. Like I couldn't get any better. And then the opportunity came around to do this and actually do good work too. I laughed myself in my ability to do something meaningful and helpful for the world beyond just walking around downtown San Diego with drunk people interviewing them about relationships. I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity to go out there. I'm extremely grateful for all the people I talked to and them sharing their stories, and I'm extremely grateful for you. Please,
Definitely.
just so you know.
Well, and I've been kind of thinking about, because for those who follow my various different channels and stuff, I know some people joke, like they say, "Oh, you got like 700 channels," but I've been trying to diversify and just talk to the people a little bit more, and so I've been kind of thinking about doing something where I actually spend some time and go talk to some of the homeless population here in LA. It's something I wanted to do for a long time. Um, and for those who don't know, in my earlier Navy days, I used to do volunteer. I used to volunteer like every like Friday night, especially in Chicago, and help feed the homeless. And so, in every city I would go to, I would have what's called 24 hours in a city. And so, I would go to the downtown part and just talk to people. So, a lot of times it was sitting around the homeless people and talking to them and getting their story. You know, and believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this, but some of the homeless people, just because you see some of these people in a down state doesn't mean that you can't learn things from them. There's so much that they can teach you, because you could be a step or two away from ending up in the situation which they're in. We never know. So never look down at anybody and always try to uplift anybody that we can. Um, Man, wow, that's almost an hour. It's
Yeah,
flown
I
by
know, right?
quickly. I definitely could talk to you much longer. I mean, if you want to stay longer, you can. If you got to go, I definitely understand. But let's make sure we get their ways that everybody can contact you first. That way, we do have that out there for everybody.
I have a good like 10, 15 more minutes, but before that, I want to say,
Hmm.
yeah. So my name is Joaquin Dante. You can find me. You can find me on Facebook. It's JoaquinDante. But my YouTube, my Instagram, Rumble, Parlor, basically everything. All my social media handles is Octosquid. That's 0 CTO, not O, 0 CTO 5QUID. And if you like more entertaining stuff, that exists too. If you know if you want to listen to cool, eccentric, eclectic music, that's there too. But I've been humbled by life so many times that I don't think I'm above anything or anybody. So if you have something you want to tell me that you think is urgent for me to say or to like research or look into, I'm game. I'm your guy. Please, 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 please send me stuff because I need to learn and find stuff out. Um, and if you need a photographer, videographer, I'm your guy too. Tap in with me. I'd love to help you all with anything. But I do want to say that I'm going away for a little bit of time, kind of soon, for like a work trip, and I have like at most, I want to say 2 months for you all to have me. So, and I won't be really reachable past that. So, if there's something on your mind, please get it across now. Um, and yeah, there's whole tangents I want to go into. Like I grew up in Chicago. Funny you say that. Actually, I went to I went to the University of Illinois in Chicago. That's where I started broadcasting and had a radio show. I won a DJ of the Year 2015 to 2016. I had a badass radio show. I had like beat battles, rap battles, live bands, DJs, legislative interviews, uh, live rap performances. Like it was a great time to be alive. Went to New York for that for an award. Um, yeah, life's journey is so complex and beautiful and amazing, and I'm grateful for everyone I meet on it, and I'm even more grateful for the people that I learn life lessons from, and grateful also for opportunities that come around, like you, my friend. Thank you very much. Very very grateful for the ability to speak on this.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did it. I'm glad to hear your voice, and I'm glad that you're venturing out and doing more things. I feel like every day there's just so many mountains of stuff to still try to learn and take in. Share this comment real quick from the Trump card. Said really enjoyed this, gentleman. Documentary was really good as well. Thank you both.
Thank you.
I'm definitely gracious. I definitely can't wait to finish up watching. I got the last couple of chapters of a book that I got to speed read through
No,
tonight.
you're good. You told me
after
about
my
it.
show. No, well, I still got my my show on my other channel tonight, the Political Matrix. And if you're not busy, definitely check us out. And then of course we'll get you all over to the Political Matrix one of these days too. So you can join as a panelist with me and my co-host Chris.
Oh, that's dangerous. Oh man.
Yeah, tonight's show we are talking internal politics in Israel. We will be talking China, Russia, Iran, Syria, Saudi Arabia, and the U.S. Congress with TikTok and some more.
Oh man, yeah. I almost jumped on a plane to Israel myself, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Like, what's going on over there? I don't know. I don't really understand it. I don't really know what's going on. But I love a good protest. I love a good riot. I always do.
I'm the man to talk to as far as like I literally follow everything all Israel all the time.
What I really want to do is I want to start like a brand of clothing or something to give to rioters, so that they could like riot shields for rioters.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of like this is kind of like a Rothschild's move where I'm like starting riots so that I can make money. It's actually
well, I got the feeling you don't have to do too much starting with some of the stuff that's going on right now. You got France, who's an uprising going on over there too.
That's crazy. Oh, I almost jumped on a plane to France today. God damn.
Well, France right now, the media is couching it as a basically more like a labor dispute, saying because they're raising the retirement age. But when you actually hear more to it, it's more combined than that. That's one part of it, but you also do have some labor requests. And then another big part, which the media is completely ignoring, is that a lot of people there want out of NATO.
Oh.
So, yeah, they're leaving that part conveniently out.
Interesting, huh? I want to touch on this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You said labor disputes.
Yeah.
talking about labor disputes, labor laws, one of the things that came up in very just like quickly in all of this was the labor strike that happened back in late 2022, where railroad workers were trying to like say like, hey, you know, don't we need better working conditions, more pay, less hours, more workers, and if I'm just going off what I've read, that basically if they were to keep protesting or bartering, whatever, if they refused to work, they were going to go to jail. That's what I heard. And so in my time there, I didn't really see a lot of that or hear a lot of it because I was too involved with like people, but the human effects of the derailment and the controlled burn. But it's definitely worth looking into that. And thank you for. I love talking to people, especially people like you, because now I know where I'm going to take this. Like now I know for sure like where I'm going to go in the next few parts. And maybe the last thing on my end, I do want to say, if you haven't watched the documentary, please do. You will enjoy it. And the second part releases on Monday.
And yeah, I mean, I can't. I'm looking forward to the second part and the third part because of knowing what you're going into.
And the fourth part will probably be next year. So got to put like a little bit of a seal, not a lid, a seal on it. And then I'm starting a new documentary next week. I can't say much more about it except I'm trying to get the FBI to be interviewed, but they're playing hard to get. These guys, I swear to God, these alphabet soup guys. And then it's going to be more artistic, more creative. I was a crazy conspiracy theorist back in the day, bro. Like insane, like wild, out of control. I almost had a girl break up with me for it. Like that's how bad it was.
Well, wait till you get a load of some of the stuff I have for you, and you're gonna realize you're not as crazy of a conspiracy theorist as you think.
I'm lucky. Go ahead.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. Mine, I would say mine is not necessarily complete crazy conspiracy theory. Mine, I can show a lot more ties to stuff than most. Whereas some people are just like throwing things out there. I give some ties to things why I believe and can make you. I'll tell you about it. You'll see.
I look forward to it. Absolutely. The best part is.
I was going to say, we got to have you back on here soon because I know you said next 2 months. So I want to make sure to get you back on here soon, especially after the second part drops. Then that'll be a good time to get you back on here.
I'm happy to say the conspiracy theories are still there, just tucked down severe levels of irony. And also it's in my music. So if you're interested, that's the plug. Instead of like acting and shit posting on Instagram and acting like a crazy deranged lunatic like this and I decided to do it through creative endeavors so that I don't get canceled, I don't get kicked out of my job, and I still can maintain friends. So thank you very much. Thank you. You're a gentleman.
Thank you. And last comment I'll read, last couple. Joe says the locals call it an uncontrolled burn. It was very recklessly handled. And Naomi Royal says, I'm in Washington State, and we have the Columbia River between two railroad lines. I would rather this doesn't happen here. Is there something we can do? I've been watching this from the first week. So some of your thoughts, is there something that could be done in your opinion?
So I'm the type of person where if there's not a way, you have to make one.
I like that.
That's it. Like the people closest to me, the people know me the best, they say, whether it's my manifestation abilities with my visual chart that I made, or it's my actual commitment to work, they will tell you that I'm the type of person that literally the only thing stopping myself is me. And so I want that's kind of like a self-improvement tip for everyone, but pertaining to this, to Naomi, was it? Pertaining to Naomi's question, that is something that needs to be addressed completely, like 100%, whether that's your legislator, legislation like immediate in the area, the district, Congress, Senate, the president, like that needs to be addressed like immediate. I can't imagine that level of stress knowing like oh, that could happen here. The water is right next to it. Da da da. That would be so stressful. And I want to tell you, it's that wouldn't be an easy immediate fix. I'm also not a civil engineer, so like I can't speak to that. I played SimCity for a few years, but I can't speak to the level of what it would take to do it. But there are ways to do this. It's easy. For example, the gentleman I talked to, Dr. Welton from University of Purdue, he specializes in emergencies, and that's why I was lucky to talk to him. And people like that with that education and experience would be able to help figure out ways to design it. Maybe you don't even have to, move the track. Maybe you can just do basic maintenance and improvement on it. That's so. You have, excuse me, Miss Naomi, you have reasons to be concerned, but I will say that, it's don't go doom and gloom. There are ways to address it and fix it.
Yeah. If I was my answer, I would give Naomi is an analogy I use sometimes when dealing on a large task. Think of it like trying to take down or demolish an old house with a sledgehammer. You take it piece by piece, pick your areas strategically, and in a case like that, I would say one of the best first steps you can do is knowledge and awareness. Find out all the information that you can find out about those couple of things. Find out what are some of the safety precautions and bylines for the trains going through my state. What are some of the things which they're carrying that could be dangerous? What are some of the just standards that they have for that? Are there certain speeds they have to keep to or not? The braking and just as you learn the information about it, then it'll be easier to chart your path. I did my bout with local people on pushing for different things and fighting against different things. If you know what's going on with it and you get yourself aware of all these different possibilities, then you can relate that information to other people, and then that can rally a force to be able to deal with it. Whether you need to get lawyers involved with litigation, whether it's petitions you need to sign, whether it's you need to bring something to a politician's attention and they can try to put in the local bills or whatever. It's just about knowledge and awareness. So if you just try to make sure you find out as much information you can on it, then it's easier to chart the path which way to go.
Good point. Very good point. It's a little different in California. Like for example, like we have a really strange water war going on that I was ignorant when I moved to California. But and then it's your responsibility for your safety, for yourself, but also your family, community, country, etc., all the way up to know that stuff. To be honest, man.
They put a lot in your own lap.
I did not think to even look at the legislation. I did not even think of that. So thank you. That didn't even come to me. So
me, I guess a short story I'll say, and then I'll let you go after this. In Kansas City, we had what was going on called the ghostwriter tax, and what that was the electric company. They were, for all the people who had outstanding bills, they were taking that and they were dividing that and then going to put that on as an extra tax on the bill of the rest of the people who were paying utilities. And I found out, and then at the same time, not only were they going to charge that to us, but they were going to charge it at the end of the year and then make the money back off of the individuals who didn't pay it and still charge that and put that on their credit and stuff. And so what they started doing is they started moving the meetings from the local city from Kansas City out to the state capital, out to Topeka. Then they start changing the hours. And so they were literally like, okay, we're going to have this meeting at 3 a.m. That way that they knew it would be less likely that people were going to drive all the way out to the state capital and show up. And so then they would, this part's a closed door hearing, a closed door session. And so eventually they were able to keep moving things around enough where they got it passed. And for the people who weren't listening to me and hearing about what was going on, they didn't think it was a big deal until 2 years later when that bill went into place and they were wondering why all their electric bills shot up.
Man, that's an interesting story, man. You have some really good stories. I can't wait to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I've done some stuff. I've that's what I said. I've been part of a bunch of different movements, and whereas I hear some of these people who are out now, or some of the people who are bigger than I am, they're talking about different things, and I'm like, yeah, but you guys sound like people who just started this. You don't sound like somebody who's actually really been dealing with this for
man.
Like I started out right after I got out of the military. Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans Against War, and so we're talking about 2005-ish, 2006 when I started doing a lot of that stuff. And so Occupy was right around the corner.
Right on.
And then, a lot of the Black Lives Matter stuff, way before it turned into all this stuff. Like I was part of the whole Trayvon Martin and Jordan Davis protest and stuff like that in Florida. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. I predate a lot of this stuff that, and a lot of these people who are out now, and I'm like, yeah, I've been there, done that. But
that's cool, man. I like that. I like that about you. But,
alrighty, but yeah, I don't want to hold you, brother. I will let you get going. Plus, I need to watch my time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I need to watch my time because I need to get ready for my other show.
So thank you very much. I hope you have a good weekend. I'm heading out Tuesday. I'll be gone for 10 days. Then I'm filming at the Renaissance Festival in Irwindale.
What day is that?
That's his first. Easter weekend. That I'll be filming, and then I'm going to Chicago for about 2 weeks after that, and then
I got some people that I can link you up with.
Would love. Let's run it, man. It's over, bro.
Yeah,
it's over, bro.
I don't know.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna let you go. I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb, so I have like at least 2 messages from people saying.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you all for the great comments, and then everyone who joined in.
We'll say, yeah. Well, here, hold on here. I'm in the broadcast, and then I'm gonna give you some of the names so you can look into them. But thank you everybody who tuned in, especially some of the people which came over because Octo5quid kind of gave you guys a link, and hopefully you guys come back, check out my channel more often. And just like how you guys send him information and hopefully you do the same to me, send me information also, and I'll do my best to try to engage in the topics. And if you have anybody that you'd like me to interview also, let me know. So much appreciation to everybody who came through on the Rockfin, on the YouTube, on Twitter, and on Facebook. Thank you, everybody. And guys, have a good night.
Thank you to everyone who watched my documentary. Thank you all. I love all my supporters. I love everyone. Thank you.